Testing. All right, greetings and welcome to the Pickens County Sheriff's Candidates Debate. We're glad you've taken time out of your busy schedule and that you're here with us tonight. Now, there's just a few matters of housekeeping that we'd like to take care of. If you need to use the restrooms, they're just off the foyer to your left. Then the next thing we'd like for you to take care of, if you have a mobile device, Hello? Oh, okay. All right, we'll do that. Turn yours off too. Was that planned? Yeah. So, if you would, keep your mobile devices off or at least on silent. Now, we do welcome, during this debate, live chat, texting, and blogging, but be considerate of your neighbor. So if you'd like to watch along, go to the pcvotes.com website. And over on the right-hand side of the home page, you will find a live stream place where you just click on that, and that will take you to live streaming. Now, again, we do appreciate each and every one that's here. We don't want to take a whole lot of time. You're here to listen to the candidates. So without any further ado, we're going to introduce to you, or ask at least our timekeepers, if they would stand up and turn around and wave to the crowd. Come on, ladies. Give them a hand. They're going to try to keep me straight, and I don't think the candidates will be able to scold them since they're young ladies. We'd like to also give a hand to those who randomly selected individuals to select the questions for this debate, and they're standing back at the back. If you'd raise your hands and wave. All right. We'd also like to give a shout out and a great big thank you to all the members of the steering committee for pcvotes.com. They've worked hard, they've worked long, and done everything they could to make this a good event. And if they would stand up, we want to give you a hand. All right, by way of introduction, I'm David Merck. I'm the founding member and past president of the Conservatives of the Upstate. I'm the Pickens County Tea Party organizer, and I'm also a member of the steering committee for pcvotes.com. We will also be hosting other events as we go through until November for other county-wide candidates or county candidates. Hopefully we'll have the school board debate and a few others. So if you want to keep up to date on those things, just go to pcvotes.com and keep that in mind. All right, next we're going to introduce our panelists. The first one that we have represents ABATE, Mr. Cliff Dalton. Cliff, welcome. Have your seat. The next one is Mr. Gravely, representing the Clemson Area Chamber of Commerce. Good evening. The next one is Ms. Kelly Pugh. She's the Superintendent of Education for Pickens County. The next one is Mr. Bill Johnson, a member of the Conservatives of the Upstate. And the next member of the panelist is Ms. John L. Raines. She's a board member of the Pickens County Taxpayers Association. Next, we would like to introduce the candidates for the sheriff's debate themselves. Mr. Rick Clark. Rick? The next one is Mr. Stan Whitten. Stand. Good to see you. And the next one is Mr. Tim Morgan. All right. Do we have any members of the media here tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4. One over there, 4. All right. If you would stand, we'll give you a hand. We're glad you came. We would like to express our appreciation again to all the panelists and all the people that helped put this together. And we'd also like to extend our appreciation to the different organizations or groups that help sponsor this event. There are quite a few. One is the easilypatched.com. Of course, there's the PickensCountyVoters.com. Then there's the South Carolina Grandparents Rights Association. Then there's the Pickens County Tea Party, the Conservatives of the Upstate, the School District of Pickens County, ABATE, and I might be missing one or two, but forgive me. But we appreciate everyone that helped to sponsor and to put this event together. And at the end of this event, we're going to be asking you, if you feel like it and would like to leave a donation in the back. We want to take up a donation for the church here, Easley First Wesleyan, for allowing us the use of their facilities. And we'd like for you to leave a donation. Any amount would be appreciated. And we'd like to give the church and their pastor a hand. You know, the candidates may think they're having it rough tonight, but look at all the stuff I got to keep up with. A lot of things to keep track of. But anyway, we appreciate all these sponsors this evening. The next thing we're going to do at this time, and we'd ask everyone to stand, and we'd ask the pastor of the church here, Reverend Randy Clay, to come forward and lead us in the invocation, and after that, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray together. Father, it is good to live in a nation where we can vote, and that we can have a say in those who lead our nation, lead our county, lead our cities. Father, we thank you for this privilege to join together and to find information that will help us to be informed about how we vote. And Father, we thank you for each one here. We also pray, as Peter Marshall prayed in the Senate long ago, help those who are about to be elected to public office to come to understand the real source of their mandate. A mandate given by no party machine, received at no polling booth, but given by God. A mandate to govern wisely and well. A mandate to represent God and truth at the heart of this county. A mandate to do good in the name of Him under whom this republic was established. Lord, we ask that you guide all of us as we vote, that you will help this nation to know you, to turn to you, to follow you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Now, if you will, let's say a pledge of allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Putting this debate together, we've taken made every effort to try to keep it above board and fair and square. We have talked personally with each of the candidates. We've gone over the format with them. We've let them ask questions, voice their concerns. They know what the format is, and so there's no sneak attack or anything like that being planned. We've also gone over the debate format with the panelists, and we've had a clear understanding with them. The panelists who represent these 5 different organizations were asked to submit at least 5 questions, making a total of 25 plus questions. And then we had audience members randomly selected to come into the side room back there and vote on 2 questions from each sheet to be asked by the panelists. So you, the audience, have had the opportunity to participate in asking or having the questions asked that you would like. Also, after the debate, we will transition into a brief period of time for a little intermission, and then we're going to have one-on-one interviews with the candidates. So that gives you also, as an audience, an opportunity to participate. Now, we still need a few more people who are willing to participate in the interviews. If you're not afraid to be live streamed on the internet, and if you're not afraid to get up on the platform, you're welcome still to participate in that. We want it to be not just an organizational thing, but we want the people, the audience, to be able to participate. Also, we've taken great strides to ensure that everything, again, will be above board. The candidates, the only thing they have up here are a pen and a pad to write on, take notations. We're not allowing any electronic devices to be used. And so we want everything to be above board and without question. As far as the format is concerned, there will be an opening statement by each of the 3 candidates. Mr. Clark will go first. He drew number 1. Mr. Whitten drew the number 2. Mr. Morgan drew the number 3. So Mr. Clark will get the opening statement. He'll have 3 minutes, then 3 minutes for each of the other 2 candidates. Then when it gets to the question part of the debate, they will have 2 minutes to answer their question. In the event that they finish their question or their answer in, say, a minute and a half, they still have 30 seconds where they could talk about something else. We're going to allow that. But at the 1.5 minute point, you will see a green flag go up. Okay? They will know that they have a half a minute. When they reach the 2 minute mark, they will see a red flag go up, knowing that their time is up. Also, we have considered the opportunity for them to do rebuttals. So if there is a charge or an accusation or any kind of comment that's made by one of the candidates toward another candidate or whatever, at my discretion, being the moderator of the event, I can ask them, would you like to respond? If they so choose to respond, then they have 30 seconds for rebuttal time. All right, keep that in mind. After all the questions have been asked, there will be again some statements by the candidates, closing statements. They will have 3 minutes. And everything is going to be randomly done on a rotational basis. The questions by the panelists will be asked on a rotational basis. All right. We want you to realize again that PCVotes.com is hosting this event. There will be other debates. To keep abreast of what is going on, do go to PCVotes.com. We all realize that the United States of America is at a critical point in time. There's no question about that. South Carolina is facing a lot of critical situations. Here in Pickens County, for the first time in over 40 years, we will be electing a new sheriff for Pickens County. One of these 3 men will be the new sheriff. And we want you to be an informed citizenry when you go to the polls in November. And in order to do that, we want the candidates to have a forum to tell you what they think, where they stand, what they anticipate doing in the event they win the election. And I'm sure you'll agree with me in what I'm about to say. We need a sheriff who will take seriously his oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. We need a sheriff who will stand with the people of Pickens County, not against us. We need a sheriff who will protect and serve. We need a sheriff, most importantly, who will love mercy and do justly and walk humbly with his God. And with that, let the debate begin.
Well, Pastor Merck there at the end just took my whole opening statement for that. That's the exact same thing. Thank you for being here tonight. Great turnout. Feel like the host. There's some seats up front. I hate to see everybody stand when there's good seats up front. Come on up. Won't bother me a bit. I'm Rick Clark, candidate for sheriff. I'm the Republican nominee for sheriff after some many, many months and years of doing this. So I'm just glad you're here tonight and glad we have this opportunity in this forum. A little bit about me so you know where I came from and where I've been and what got me to this point. Born and raised in Liberty, great place to be, great place to raise a family and have a home. I graduated Liberty High School and had my own business. The parents were in their own small businesses that a lot of people know across the county, Clark Cabinets and Clark Furniture. Clark Cabinets was known more for a hangout, my father, than it was for producing cabinets. But went on to Clemson during my bachelor's, eventually in horticulture, and eventually my master's in public administration and through USC and Clemson University. So growing up, always looked at law enforcement as what I should be doing, but never made the step. So finally went through, and when I was about 26 years old, after owning my own business, got into law enforcement. And it's been the greatest thing. Back in the 90s, I was lucky enough that I think God let me be where I need to be, and that's public service. And the way we've done that is through the sheriff's office. Started there in the 90s, went to Clemson University PD, and now I'm director of public safety at Tri-County Technical College. It's been a great experience for me to build a department from nothing. So that's a brief introduction of who I am, and we'll talk about where we're going to take the sheriff's office throughout the night. Thank you very much.
All right. Stan Whitten.
Thank you, David. Thank you, PC Votes, for putting this on. I appreciate it, and all the different groups that are represented here today. I appreciate them being here and giving us an opportunity to get our message out to you, all the people. To tell you a little about myself, I'm 44 years old. I'm born and raised in Pickens County. This is home. It's where I choose to raise my family. I have my kids in public schools here in Pickens County. I absolutely love living in this county. Tell you a little about me. I've got 17 years of public service. 9.5 of that's been in law enforcement. I've got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in homeland security. My current position is with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office as a master deputy. As a master deputy, my job is to teach and to train the new deputies that come out of the academy. I teach them and train them to be proficient and effective law enforcement officers. I decided about a little over a year ago, to run for the office of sheriff here in Pickens County because I believe there's a fundamental problem with the way the sheriff's office operates. We as taxpayers, and that's all of us in here, need to be getting more bang for our buck in terms of the quality of service the sheriff's office offers. And just to let you know, fiscal year 2013, that budget is $9.2 million for just the sheriff's office. But some of the issues that I'm running on are more community involvement from the sheriff's office, smaller patrol areas, and community policing in its purest form. Now, as we go through the night, I'll talk more about those things, but to summarize it, I'll tell you this. The sheriff's office needs to have a partnership with the citizens in Pickens County to proactively deter and prevent crime within this county, and the neighborhoods and the businesses in this county. So thank y'all very much. I look forward to the questions.
All right. Tim Morgan.
Well, I want to thank you for taking your time on Tuesday evening to come out and be a part of this. You know, we're in a situation that you've been in just like we are. It's called a job interview. That's what we're here for. It's a little unusual that we all interview at the same time. That makes it a little uncomfortable, a little different. But you know, we have to sell ourselves, and that's what I'm here to do, to try to sell myself to you. And that's not easy to do. I'm not used to bragging on myself because most everything that I've ever accomplished in life, I've done it with other people and through other people, and because of other people, the opportunities I've been given. You know, I think everybody in this room wants the same thing. We want this county to be a good place for us, for our kids, for our grandkids, and future generations. But I guess we differ on how to get there. I've told both of these guys that you're not my adversaries. We're here for the same purpose. It's just a matter of how we're going to get there. I've been gigged a little bit because I've been asked, why didn't you run the right way? Why didn't you run in the primary? And I'll start off by answering that question. The man that hired me, that gave me all my opportunities in my career, it would have been disloyal for me to run against him. And I gave him my word that I never would, and I didn't. I think loyalty to one, to a person and honesty is a trait we got to have. But had I bitten the hand that fed me, it just wasn't the right thing to do. So this is my first opportunity at this point in time to run, and that's why I'm here tonight. I appreciate, again, you coming. I know it's dinner time, we're probably hungry, it's raining, probably wet, and at the end of the day, you're probably tired. But that's never a good combination when you're tired, cold, and hungry. But thanks for coming.
All right, our first question for the evening will be brought by the representative for Abate, Mr. Cliff Dalton.
I want to thank PC Vote for having our organization come here and represent this. I think this is a very good deal you're putting on here with these debates. Now get around to the first question. How do you feel about accepting federal grants for the Sheriff's Department?
Tim Morgan, that question is yours to start with.
Well, that's something we actively pursue. Actually, we have several federal grants that are active right now. We're getting ready to purchase another tag reader, automatic tag reader with federal money. We're looking into the possibility we're going to have to build a new jail at some point in time. There's a possibility of getting federal money for that. That's going to be down the road. It takes a while to get there, but housing federal prisoners is another source of money to take the burden off of Pickens County taxpayers. But we aggressively pursue federal grants. I think over the last 5 years, we've gotten over $1.5 million in federal money. So it's a great asset. The money's out there, and it's all our tax money. It's no such thing as free money, but it saves the local taxpayers the dollars, and we can get the federal money.
All right. The next one with that question is Rick Clark.
Great question on grants. Talk about doing grants instead of as a conservative, I have concerns about federal money coming in, but I have a simple choice. And the city councilman in Liberty for over 11 years. Do I get it for my town when my infrastructure is falling apart, or do I give it to Los Angeles or New York? As city councilman in Liberty, it's very, very simple to me. I'm going to take it. We've put over $2 million in grants into our city, almost 1.5 in water, over $500,000 in sewer. Now, we're talking a system that's built in 1928. We completed a fire station that should have been a $300,000 or $400,000 project. We came in under $200,000, and the city of Liberty paid $18,000 for that. That's housing my fire trucks. So, and I'll do all that as my thinking of tax dollars. What we did with that was our plan to come back and benefit the taxpayers. We took that water grant. We took the grant for the fire station to add another bay, 2 bays onto it. And what we did, we set ourselves up now through our insurance service organization rating to lower the insurance rates on our people inside the city and out in the county in the Liberty Area Fire District. And we just got through with our ISO study, and they have it now. We think we're going to do at least 1 point better, maybe 2. That's what federal grants means to me, of what we can do, and use that in a philosophical way of using tax dollars and grant money to lower the cost of owning a home in our service area. And we've done that. We're waiting on the paperwork to come back.
All right, Stan, that question's yours now.
Tax federal grants It's tax money, it's not free money, I agree with that. It is a necessity in some cases. I think that Pickens County, I believe in full disclosure and transparency in the sheriff's office. And before we start going after grants, I need to see where, or would like to see, as I would like to show y'all as a sheriff, where the money's going. I want to know where every dollar is going. If the sheriff's office is spending $127,000 in gasoline, I think you as a citizen should be able to know that. And then determine if the need for grant arise or come up. There's other ways to generate money within the sheriff's office, and the example I could think of is drugs, dope, going after dope houses. I mean, the deputies on the road, in my opinion, can be going after those dope houses up to and including getting search warrants and kicking the door and going and seizing $10,000, $12,000 in cash, and that money stays within the sheriff's office. And that is free money. That's not grant money, that is free money. So while grants are a necessity, in some cases, I'd like to get to the point where I'd like to know where we have to go and get those grants at. So it's necessary, but you show me where we got to go get them. Thank you.
All right. Our next question will come from Mr. Gravely of the Clemson Area Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. My question is, what should be the role of the sheriff's deputies in speed control while they're on patrol in the county?
All right, that question is for you, Mr. Whitten.
Speed control in terms of running radar? I mean, is that what your speed control? We have an obligation, the sheriff's office, particularly in our school zones, to ensure that our kids are safe. So, I mean, absolutely, we have an obligation to be in those areas. There's a speed limit for a reason. People do speed. There's a speed limit for a reason. If somebody is being excessive, then we have an obligation to pull them over. We are deputy sheriffs, but we're also law enforcement officers. We have the obligation to keep our roads and our highways safe for people that drive along them. And our first priority is protection of life. And you get people out there that are being irresponsible, we have the responsibility to pull them over, stop them, find out what they're doing, and cite them appropriately. Do I think everybody deserves a ticket? No. I think you can be just as effective writing a contact ticket or a warning ticket than you can be writing a speeding ticket. So I think it needs to be enforced. Within the sheriff's office, I think we have a role to play. As they have a traffic unit, they need to be enforcing these, particularly, like I said, in the school districts. So yes, there is a need for it.
All right. Mr. Morgan, the question's yours.
All right. The Highway Patrol's sole purpose for existence is working traffic. The Sheriff's Office has limited resources. We have 9 people on a shift, and then there's other shifts that overlap that. But our primary purpose is protect you and your property, especially your property while you're away at work. We do work speeding. There is a function for that. If we get complaints in certain areas, we do work school districts and school zones. And there's certainly a need for it, but that's not the primary purpose. We try to work with the Highway Patrol, and with limited resources, you have to allocate what you're going to do and where you're going to put them. If we had unlimited resources, absolutely, we'd work speeding all the time. But we try to work it and target those areas, and we also use the radar as probable cause for stopping cars in the high crime areas. So I believe that you can accomplish your mission by whatever the least resistance is, or the least means, or the least intrusion in somebody's life. If you can do that by stopping and giving a warning, that's good. If you need to write a ticket, then sometimes you have to write a ticket, because we get a number of speeding complaints around, and we have to do things to resolve that. However, I've seen in court, from my personal experience, juries that it's a hung jury because that officer treated them unfairly with a ticket. So I think it's stuff that we can do, that we need to do. We need to do it fairly and use discretion.
All right. Mr. Clark, the question is yours.
In 17 years of law enforcement, I've stopped many cars, and I've written one speeding ticket. Now, I've stopped and used radar, and I dropped it on her because her boyfriend was giving her a hard time. So, I've written one. It is a useful tool but it's got to be a tool. The sheriff's office has far more important things to do than run radar, except for community saturation, where we know as far as part of an intelligence-led policing system, where we know where we're at in the community, that we may catch the people going in and out of the drug house with radar, or our schools, especially during startups, the time we're in now. Those are the type of things that it has to be a tool for community safety, not a tool for revenue. And it will never be a tool for revenue under my administration. It has its place, it has its limited place, but it's got to be targeted. There's got to be a public service need for it and a community need. Walking on Hester Store Road, we have a speeding problem there, and when the neighbors come up and need things on that area, the cars on that street slow them down, that is what will be. But it'll have a target and it'll have a useful use, not just as revenue generator.
Okay. All right, it's time for question number 3, and that will be given by Mrs. Pugh, Superintendent of Education of Pickens County.
Good evening. As sheriff, what would be your plan with working closely with resource officers in our schools around the district towards school-related school security issues and criminal offenses with our students?
Mr. Clark, the question's yours.
Great question. The first thing I do is near and dear to my heart. I'm an active shooter instructor. I teach police all across upstate on how to respond to active shooters in schools. And it's been trained through and certified through several different agencies, including the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. We do not have the training and the response mechanism in Pickens County for a school shooting. We have had a 0 full-scale event that's sponsored by the Sheriff's Office. And one thing we don't understand in the Sheriff's Office is we're responsible for city schools too. We need to be training them. I train easily. We've done 3 trainings so far, annual trainings on active shooter response. But if we have a large event, we've got to train together for school events, because as Pickens County and the sheriff, I'm responsible for every school and every taxpayer in the county. Now, as far as the school resource officers, what a great asset. And the training, there's advanced training for school resource officers of where we're now, as you see, there's about a shooting a day across the country. We have to train them to start looking for the pre-indicators of violence, the pre-indicators of what's going on. Because about every school shooting I've studied, and that's been a lot of them, the indicators were there. They were blinking and giving signs and what needs to be done. We've got to train our school resource officers better. A lot of times we don't put our best people in the resource officers' positions that I've seen across the state because we're not taking it seriously enough as it's got to be. This is our front line against saving people and saving kids and hopefully catching them before they go off and do something violent. But it all comes down to training, and we more or less ignore a lot of school resource officers in the county and don't give them the tools they need to succeed and move ahead and save our children.
All right. The question now is for Stan Whitten.
Sheriff's Office needs to be a visible part, take a visible part in an active role in schools. And I'm not talking about just from an SRO standpoint, because they serve a great service for the schools, for school safety. But the deputies on the road need to understand the layout of these schools. They need to have these maps in their cars in case something does happen to where they have to respond. That's what parents in this county expect from the Sheriff's Office, that we respond and respond diligently and do the right things in these schools. The school board, if I'm not mistaken, started a task force, a collaboration with law enforcement. I think that's a great thing and something that needs to continue. With our kids in our schools, the intervention that the Sheriff's Office can give these children, these kids, is paramount. It's very important. There's the SROs in the schools, for example, can be teaching. Prevention starts with them. That's where prevention starts. And the Sheriff's Office can continue that with some of the programs that I would like to implement, and that's up at Rocky Bottom. Bring back police camp, get the kids back up there, getting them involved in the Sheriff's Office, letting them hang out, shoot guns, teach them, mentor those children. That's what these children need. You started, Dr. Pugh, Alive at 25. I've done a little bit of research on that, and that is a fantastic program, an outstanding program. Kids get a fundamental they get to learn about driving from driving instructors. But Alive at 25 is something that goes further than that. It's taught by law enforcement. It teaches them safety belts, seatbelt safety. It teaches them drinking and driving. It teaches them eating and driving. My pet peeve is texting and driving and how not to do this. It shows them a little bit of responsibility. But parents need to take a more active role in the children's lives along with the school system. Thank you.
All right, the question is yours, Mr. Morgan.
We have great school resource officers. They have great communication with the teachers. They interact. The information is fed from the teacher to the school resource officer to the gang investigator, and that comes from all the schools. That's not just those out in the county. If we see that there's a kid that's beginning to have a problem, the grades are slipping, then we do knock and talks. If it's 9 o'clock at night when the mama gets off of work on second shift, and quite often it's single parent housing, and let them know that there's some behavior changes, the grades are dropping, they have a new association of friends, and we try to nip it at that point in time and do something about it before it gets too late. The kids are our greatest resource, and sure, we're going to protect the kids. The training that we have is open to the cities. They have their own training facilities or training opportunities, and we offer it to them, but we can't make them participate. But anytime we can work together, and that's exactly what we're doing with our school resource officers and school administration and teachers, to keep it a safe place, because it is a different world that we live in, and we're making every effort to make sure that it stays a safe place that it is.
All right. The next question will come from Mr. Bill Johnson, representing the conservatives of the upstate.
What are the top 2 things you would like to change in the sheriff's department?
That question goes to Mr. Morgan.
Well, as far as what we need an ordinance that will regulate pawn shops and scrap metal dealers. We've developed one, we've submitted it to county council, and it's presently in committee. A lot of the larcenies, a lot of the thieving that takes place, they go to the scrap metal yards and it ends up in the pawn shops. We have the technology available now to check from the patrol car the pawn shop transactions anywhere in the United States if they're participating with the leads online. That's a great asset, but we need an ordinance to force the pawn shop dealers and the scrap metal brokers or scrap metal yards to use that. Also, we need a law regulating pseudoephedrine. There's 10% of the people are buying 90% of the Sudafed, and that's precursor for making methamphetamine. And the states that have passed that, there's been a decrease in methamphetamine use. It's probably going to have to be a national law passed, so we can start on a local level. It needs to be by prescription. I think the 90% of the people that's using Sudafed wouldn't mind getting a prescription to do it if it's going to help us out in the meth problem. But those are 2 tools that we need to properly do our job.
All right. Mr. Clark, the question is yours.
The first thing is not ordinances, but I think the question was change inside the sheriff's office.
Yes.
It's called intelligence-led policing. And the funny thing is they're starting to try to do it now. Intelligence-led policing is a concept and have been put in across the nation of where dramatic crime decreases are shown by the simple things of sharing information, giving your deputies a mission when they go out and leave the sheriff's office, and community involvement. How many people in here have been to the sheriff's office sponsored crime prevention, like in a church like this, or community talk of in your neighborhood? Thank you, that's what I've seen. That we're not in our community and we're not telling our deputies what's going on in our communities. But to look at a bigger picture, we're ignoring our police departments because 6% of the people account for 60% of the crime on average. And what we do not do is share information instantaneously with our local police departments because we're always chasing the same thugs. We just don't know about it. Now we have called the monthly chiefs meeting of where they read what happened over the month. Let's say we're in August. They'll read the crimes that happen in August, but don't talk about what we're going to do in September to reduce these crimes, to put these thugs in jail. That's the 70s and 80s policing we've got to break out of in the sheriff's office. And intelligence-led policing is the perfect way to do it. We've got to collect our data from our available sources, from everything from out on the street to our records management system, to the city's records management systems across the county. Even in jail interviews, getting CIs to work in jail and offering them a simple Pepsi. You'd be surprised how much information you can get with somebody in jail wanting a pack of crackers. But we don't do it. And then we've got to work with our public, as I said, and integrate all this into a form where the deputies see it, have it at their fingertips on the road, and they know their mission to put thugs in jail.
All right, Mr. Whitten, the question is yours.
Top two things I'd like to do inside the sheriff's office is, number one, reduce the size of patrol areas. Right now, there's 3 very large patrol areas in Pickens County that are about 170 square miles each. And I would like to cut that down to about 8 smaller patrol areas. And under my realignment of personnel, there could be, right now, there's 7 deputies, a sergeant, a lieutenant covering 512 square miles in Pickens County. Under my realignment, there could be 8 smaller patrol areas of about 50 to 60 square miles and 14 deputies on the road without going to county council and asking for $1 or a deputy. So smaller patrol areas is going to help deputies get out there and respond quicker. Response times will immediately increase. Deputies can start making cases, developing leads on their own, get out there and start making their cases. Those are the 2 biggest things that need to happen inside the sheriff's office. With intelligence-led policing, the issue I have with intelligence-led policing is this. It's what Rick isn't telling you is I'm trying to include the community in my sheriff's office. With intelligence-led policing, it is law enforcement sensitive. If the deputies get out with you on a traffic stop or something else, you're never going to know if your name goes into a database because it is law enforcement sensitive. So I had some issues with intelligence-led policing. But I'm trying to include the community to help me, with businesses, to help me proactively go after these criminals. Thank you very much.
You know, intelligence-led policing.
30 seconds. You have 30 seconds if you're wanting to.
I'm sorry, I thought it was mine.
No, you've already responded.
Well, may I?
All right, 30 seconds.
Intelligence-led policing has been around since the 90s, since 2011. It's used in major centers where you have task force that gather gang information or terrorist information and put it together. We do that. As far as the land mass, it's still 507 square miles. I don't tell you how you break it down. We have the same number of people, and it's the same land mass.
All right. Mr. Clark, there's some comments made about your proposal for intelligence-led policing. Would you like to respond?
Yes, sir.
30 seconds.
Let me give you the intelligence-led policing in the sheriff's office today, and this started back when we were in debates against the sheriff. Your intelligence-led policing at the sheriff's office today is a map on the wall, and they stick pins in it when there's a burglary. Does this pin give you any information? Did it tell you that we're hunting a red truck or 3 guys in a blue truck? No, it's not telling you anything. That's what intelligence-led policing can do, is give the deputies what they need at their fingertips in the car.
All right. Thank you. All right, our next question comes from Ms. Janelle Raines, representing the Pickens County Taxpayers Association.
How can you make the sheriff's office budget more cost-effective?
All right, the question is for Mr. Whitten.
That's easy. Let the people know what the budget is. Let people know exactly where the money is being spent. I mean, $9.2 million for fiscal year 2013, and I think in 2012 it was 8-point-something million. Obviously, the majority of that goes towards salaries, but it needs to be more cost-effective when the people know where that money is being spent. I don't know where the money is being spent. So, for me to answer that question, I have to look at the budget and tell you that the sheriff's office can live within that budget. The sheriff's office is extremely too top-heavy. There are 5 captains at the sheriff's office. Now, I talk about realigning personnel. I'm not talking about just simply doing away with positions. That sheriff's office can effectively run with 3 captains. Way too many lieutenants up there. It's very top-heavy. That's where I'm going to get the personnel to turn around and put these deputies back on the road in smaller patrol areas to where the uniform patrol is the backbone of the sheriff's office. Everything happens there. Deputies' response times are going to increase with more deputies on the road. You have to look at the budget and see where it's at and effectively put people in areas where they're going to be most effective. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Morgan, the question is yours.
I prepared 30-plus budgets for the sheriff's office. I know them inside out. I know every nook and cranny in the budget. We're talking about intelligence-led policing. If you want to incorporate that and iPads, you're talking about $84,000 that I've checked to do that. Plus, our records management system is not compatible with that. So that's going to be, after they make an app for that, you're going to have to purchase that. So if you're talking about cutting money, cutting budgets, we have, Rick used an example of the map. Several years ago, many years ago, probably 3 decades ago, NASA spent $250,000 trying to develop an ink pen that would write in space. You know what the Russians did? They used a pencil. What's wrong with the map that every deputy that can come in and see the red pens and know where the burglary areas are, where the high crime is? Anybody can walk by, can look at that at shift change. Why do you have to have it on a piece of electronics where you transmit that? And to infer that we don't exchange information, we communicate daily at shift change meetings on what we're looking for, with detective meetings on what we're looking for. As far as streamlining the budget, there are a couple of positions that I think we could look at, but I've never had the final say-so. The buck has never stopped here. But there's some, as far as salaries or positions, I might could reassign it, but we have gone through that budget year after year after year, and we've never gone back to county council and asked for more money. So I think we've demonstrated very responsibly that we can manage the budget well.
All right, the question is for you, Mr. Clark.
We'll go back to intelligence-led policing and efficiency. Our deputies are not efficient now because they don't know what they're looking for. We're out on the forms here. Let me give you the low-down version. We don't have to spend $84,000 on something right off. I get these from Anderson County daily. Excel sheet, free, it's already paid for, and Word for Windows, already there. This can come straight to the computer, it's printed out. It gives me, and look what it's telling me, for free. It's through email of what, when we have, instead of having the captain of communication who is there watching Rhonda Whitaker do the work inside and feeding her birds that are in dispatch, we're going to transition that into crime analysis. But when we start combining this type information with our cities, so we know the same 6% that we're hunting and sharing our resources together, sharing our tax dollars and become more efficient, that's how we're going to make ourselves more efficient and more cost effective for every budget dollar. So don't fall for the hype of trying to spend $100,000 for whatever when we've got it right here in front of us. And what it's doing is combining several different things in several different areas to give us targets to look for. Tell us, one, where we need to be saturating the area, if we're looking for a certain truck, if we're seeing a pattern. Intelligence-led policing is about patterns. So if it doesn't work, why now in this the last week did the captain of narcotics send out an email letting people know where areas he may need saturated? It never happened before. Why we all of a sudden develop pins on a board tell you that there's pins on a board. If you don't know that already, you're having problems. And now we have the Directed Patrol Unit, which is a traffic team who's been supposedly converted for a year. They did a saturation around K acres. Why? Because it's intelligence-led policing that they're trying to do in the last 2 months of an election. So if it's not too good, why are we trying to do it now?
All right, Mr. Morgan, would you like to respond to that?
That's smoke and mirrors. It's political talk. We've been in office, or Sheriff's been in office a long time, and I've been there with them for a long time. Our people do a great job. They communicate. We all have email in the patrol car. They all have smartphones. for the most part. I think the Bank of America robbery a few weeks ago in Pickens, where they downloaded the picture from the bank, coordinating with the city, sent it to the deputies in their cars. They ID'd the people in the car. To say that we don't communicate, thank you.
Can I say something? 30, can I get
30 seconds.
I want the people in the neighborhoods who know their neighborhoods better than anybody else, better than the sheriff, better than any deputy out there. I want them telling me what's going on in their neighborhoods. They'll be quick to tell you if there's a vehicle riding up and down that they've never seen, or pulled into a driveway and stayed for 5 minutes and they've never seen. If that's intelligence-led policing, I'm all for it. I want a relationship with the people in the community come to me when they see something that is out of place and tell me about it so I can then do something about it. Thank you.
All right. We're halfway through the questions, and before we take the next question, I'd like to let you know that this full debate will be uploaded to YouTube, and your organizations can feel free to link to that, and the sheriff's candidates' websites can link to that if they so desire. So if you want to view it again or tell someone that you know would like to view it, it will be on YouTube in just a couple of days. So keep that in mind. All right, we will start again with the questions. This question will be coming from Cliff Dalton of Abate.
All right, gentlemen. Second question I have is, can you briefly state your knowledge of the 4th and 10th Amendments of the Constitution?
Mr. Clark, the question's yours.
Fourth Amendment is right to be free from search and seizure of your house, property, papers, and all that live. And it's one of the basic things that the warrant is built on, is to move ahead. And we have to have a warrant for search and seizure. You have to have it through a judge. It has to be signed under oath. That is one of the basic tenets of our legal system. And done hundred or lots of warrants that, and you have to have probable cause statements. And one of the greatest things building a new department is taking the officer through the first steps of developing probable cause for the Fourth Amendment and seeing why you have to meet these certain criteria, because it saves the Constitution. And that's what the basic tenets of that is. The 10th Amendment gives I think a lot of the ability to save the Constitution and keep us from drifting off and giving us a battle line to keep people from destroying our Constitution and the other Bill of Rights that we hold so dear. So those are one of the biggest and two of the biggest tenets of the Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, that are so important today as those are being assaulted and the Constitution is being assaulted on a daily basis.
All right, Mr. Whitten, the question's yours.
I agree. The Fourth Amendment is a fundamental right, a basic right against illegal search and seizures. You've got to get a warrant to go in, or you got to have probable cause to get a search warrant. Now, when we're out doing traffic stops, conducting traffic, and we pull a car over, we have the probable cause for whether a vehicle violation or equipment violation to pull that car over. That then does not give us the right to search a vehicle. A lot of people think, well, they pulled me over, now they can search my vehicle. It does not give us the fundamental right to go in there and search that vehicle. We still have to have probable cause to do it. So it's just not applicable to houses. It's applicable to your person. It's applicable to your vehicle. 10th Amendment is states' rights. It's basically to keep the federal government from coming in without the states doing it, acting outside the law of South Carolina is the 10th Amendment right. So, I mean, it is our 10th Amendment that states have the right to keep the federal government out. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Morgan, your opportunity.
It says no warrant shall be issued except upon probable cause. You know, part of our oath of office is to enforce the law, but a part that is rarely mentioned sometimes by officers, the other half of the oath of office that we take is uphold the Constitution of this state and of these United States. And I believe wholeheartedly in the Constitution. You know, I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said, criminals and government are enemies of the people. Bind the latter with shackles of the Constitution so they don't become legalized versions of the first. It would be real easy. Quite often people say, they're frustrated because law enforcement can't do anything when they report. And we told you they're selling dope out of that house. Well, if we lived in a Iraqi society, maybe we could go kick the door in and solve the problem, but we don't. There's certain parameters that we have to operate in, and part of the sheriff's responsibility is to make certain that that happens. You know, it's very, if you have a bunch of young deputies in their 20s and you give them badges, guns, high-performance cars, getting them to work is not the problem. The problem is holding the reins back and make sure they do it in the parameters that they're supposed to in the Constitution. As far as the 10th Amendment, I'm not positive, but I think it does deal with states' rights.
All right. All right, our next question will come from Mr. Gravely of the Clemson Area Chamber of Commerce.
How do you handle simple theft issues? Probably one of the big issues that people deal with. Let's say I live in a rural subdivision and I have 2 nice grape arbors. However, when they become ripe, somebody comes in and cleans them all out. Let's say the arbor's out of sight of the house.
Is that the balance of the question?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Morgan?
About a month ago, we sent a deputy into Sedgewood subdivision because the lady was missing 2 tomatoes off of her tomato plants. We give it attention. You know, we have to prioritize what we do, but to her, it was a big deal.
Sure.
And it meant a lot to her that we respond and we go and we check during the night. She said, you can come in my driveway and turn around, but if you would check my tomato plants, I think some kids are stealing tomatoes. And following up on that, there's probably somebody in the community, and simple theft like you're talking about, that's committing the crime. Quite often you can look at some kids that are unattended on second shift, but you can interview people in the neighborhood and get a lot of information. That's what the officers do.
All right. Mr. Clark, the question's yours.
The grape arbor theft is, it's two things, and one actually we're doing right now is simple theft. One of our cameras from my department, we're working with the Liberty Police Department, and simple deer cameras. I've made the one where you can mount it in different ways and set up just a simple deer camera. You may not catch anybody, but you feel as when the grapes are missing that we're there for you, we're doing something. And just a $100 camera placed in the right place will do wonders for citizen morale, and you'll catch people. Again, we got just the other day from Anderson County a list from one of the cities where they had 2 people, and sadly one of them was female who was pregnant, so you just saw the cycle coming. And we got great photos, and they've been identified and arrested. So a simple $100 deer camera you may use out in the wood works perfect for these simple thefts. But our simple thefts, the big thing that we're running into is metal. And those type thefts is usually run by meth heads, people who are addicted to methamphetamines. That is our simple larceny problem across the county. And attacking it in different ways, and the deputies knowing their neighborhoods and their communities, and out in the communities, usually when that type of theft happens, if you've got a good deputy who knows his area, he's going to know exactly who it is and can follow up on investigations. And that's what we got to have our deputies in our neighborhoods, knowing our neighborhoods, knowing the people, and having a relationship with them, not waiting just to respond to a call as it goes on now. All
right. Mr. Whitten, the question's yours.
Never heard of a crime called simple theft before. There's petty larceny and there's grand larceny. And if a simple theft for these items, for example, were $1,200, would that still be simple theft? It would still be petty larceny. Be petty larceny up to $2,000 and below. So to that person, it would be a big deal. Having deputies in smaller patrol areas, building a relationship with the people in that community. Maybe somebody saw something. Maybe somebody saw somebody do something. Maybe saw a car go by. It is policing the way it should be done. You talk to the neighbors. You find out who could have or should have seen something. You investigate it just like you would a grand larceny. You give it the due attention that it needs. And if the case cannot be solved, do not be afraid to call that person and say, sorry, I did what I could do. I did everything I could do for you. We're going to close this case. and let them know that. Don't sugarcoat it. Just let them know, I'm sorry, we did all we could do for you, but your case is going to be closed, and move on. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Were you wanting some time?
Well,
30 seconds.
I would. To infer that the deputies are not involved in the communities, are not stopping in the convenience stores, stopping in the little country stores, talking to people in their yards, that's erroneous. Just because a candidate says so doesn't mean it's true. Our deputies are very involved in the communities in a number of arenas.
All right. Mr. Clark, would you like to respond to that?
Name two,
Name two what?
how your deputies are involved in what community meetings you had lately, what have they done?
Yes, we've had crime watch meetings. We stop in the convenience stores. We talk to people. We stop in the yards and talk to people when they're finished cutting their grass. And that's where you get information. How you doing today? Is there anything we can do to help you? They do it on a daily basis. You can look at our records. It's called PR 100s, where they call it in. And to infer that they don't do that is erroneous, just because you say they don't.
I'm inferring enough. What I'm also inferring is, what if we had a sheriff who did that by himself to set the example?
All right, time. All right, we will move on. The next question comes from Ms. Pugh, representing the School District of Pickens County.
Recently, our Board of Trustees set an 80% graduation rate for our students. So we would like to know your plans to help us address truancy in our school district that will help us improve the graduation rate. Could you give to us some specific examples of the strategies you would employ that will address this big issue for our at-risk students and their families?
All right, this question is begins with Mr. Whitten.
I agree. We need school administrators need to let the sheriff's office know who the at-risk students are. I mean, they know already from patterns that they've seen, and let the sheriff's office get involved in intervention with the parents. It could be a parenting problem. Now, being a parenting problem is not a criminal problem, but we can go in there and offer them resources through DSS. There's a number of agencies out there that we could help them to get their kids back into schools and get them back on track. Again, without knowing specifics, I agree with this. Truancy can be a problem, and without intervention or a good community involvement from the sheriff's office and the school board, a school system, then it's going to fail from the wayside, and that's not going to be a good thing. We need to understand that our children are the future in this county, and we have to make sure and do everything we can to make sure that they get to graduate in high school. And now almost that's not good enough. They need to go to college and hopefully keep them in the community, giving them jobs in the community to where they're staying here, giving back to the school district and to Pickens County.
All right, the question is for Tim Morgan.
Actually, I read that article in the paper about your goal of trying to, I think, 80% graduation rate. And I went and met with Dr. Pugh already and asked her, what can we do as a sheriff's office to help you attain your goal? If it's sending officers, again, to do knock-in talks with the parents when they get home off work on second shift or whenever it might be, and let them know the importance of getting their kids in school. You know, if we don't have kids with some kind of, it might not be a high school diploma, but if they can get a skill of welding, plumbing, electrical, something, they can support their family. And I think we're going to have to do that in order for us to survive. I would allocate, working with the school district in the parameters that we could come up with, what we could set, to try to get officers to go into the homes and talk to parents. And quite often the parents are laid up in there on dope. They don't get the kids up. And the school resource officers are already playing a valuable role with that. At the Dacusville Middle School, had a child call the school resource officer and said, I missed the bus, will you come get me? I think developing those relationships where the kids know that they can call the school resource officers or any officer and get some assistance in getting to school. There's things that we can do and we're certainly eager to do that.
All right, Mr. Clark, the question's yours.
As part of a bigger goal for the sheriff's office, and what keeps me going, is outside of the normal law enforcement agencies, we need a sheriff who's a leader in the county and who's done things in the community for his charities and things like that. And I've, in my mind, it's called the Sheriff's Coalition, of where we have a coalition of charities, nonprofits, churches, and other school members, of where we have the ability, if we have someone in trouble, we have the ability to send them to the person or an agency or some type of support mechanism that can help them the most. And that's what we have, different missions and charities across the county now, but we don't have a unifying force. And the sheriff would be a great way to do that, to pull things together and part of this truancy. What if we developed after-school programs through volunteers, through the Sheriff's Coalition, an amalgamation of several different charities and groups who understand our same mission as this truancy rate. That's what a sheriff can do, is out in the community and the county, is pull together people that normally may not come together always. So we could do that, is have a network to assist in after-school programs, tutoring, the things that we need to do to support what you already do, many of the same things. But secondly, is showing up at the home for two reasons. One is support. Your child is falling behind. We're here to help, as a lot of school resource officers do now. And if that doesn't work, secondly, we're here to enforce. We're looking at child endangerment, we're looking at truancy, and where are you as a parent, and where are we going to push you with help, or we're going to push you with enforcement. Those are the type of developments and relationships we can work together to try to help the person or try to do what we're going to do to save that child through truancy. So that's what I get excited about a lot of times, is what the sheriff can do as a community leader, not just a sheriff over at the sheriff's office.
All right. We're down to question number 9. It will be given to us by Mr. Bill Johnston, member of the Conservatives of the Upstate.
This is a long question. Do you believe the Pickens County Sheriff's Department is technologically up to date and that employees have appropriate skill levels for this technology? And if not, how would you improve this?
The question is for you, Mr. Clark.
The Pickens County Sheriff's Office has a lot of the tools for being up to date. Our 911 system is one of the most advanced in the nation, because I installed when I was with the Clemson University Police Department. But we don't use it to what it can be used for. We should be able to pull up around now and call a thing called Places and get the information we need at a burglary area or a business and pull that. And integrating our 911 into our CAD systems that are in the, well, not CAD, but the RMS systems that are in the cars, of where we're pulling information instantaneously and giving that information to the officer out on the road, is just part of that. We have computers in the cars, but are we using them at their maximum efficiency right now? No, we're not. There are things that we can do better. We've kind of gotten part of the tools there, but we're not moved ahead, and we don't think long-term of what we're doing and looking at other places as part of the intelligence-led policing parts. So those are the things that we can do to improve. Our training has to be just simple, basic computer skills, make sure that we've got that for them first. But the main thing that we've got to do through these type of technology is make the officer more efficient. Give him or her what they need on the road and to move ahead. And it doesn't have to be the 84,000 chunks at a time. It can be simple stuff like this that gets us started and moving forward and pulls everybody together so we're all on the same page. Now, when I say that, on the same page, I'm talking about every law enforcement agency in the county. If you're in the city, you get to pay city and county taxes. We're chasing the same people. We've got to use technology to make sure that we know the same people that we're chasing.
All right. The question is for you, Mr. Whitten.
The investigators at the Pickens County Sheriff's Office don't have the resources that they need. For example, if they want leads online, which is a database to see if somebody has pawned something somewhere else, they've got to pay for it themselves. If they want Accurate, which is another database for them to be able to look up stuff, they've got to pay for that stuff themselves instead of the sheriff's office doing it. Which, if they don't want to pay for that themselves, does that mean a crime that is? If you are a victim of a crime, are you going to be affected by that? You better believe you are. So the technology needs to be updated at the most fundamental level, just with databases like that. We talk about the deputy, and the sheriff of the county has a responsibility to the deputy to make sure he has the best equipment, the best training, the best resources he needs to go out there and do his job. Of course, the larger responsibility and accountability is to the people to ensure that the deputies out there doing their job. So there could be some technological updates, but at $9.2 million, again, it goes back to a budget issue. Where is this money going? And you, as citizens, should know where it's going. I would like to know where it's going. I'm a citizen of Pickens County and don't know. And then let's best allocate that money where it needs to where the deputies are most efficient on the job for the people in this county.
All right, the question is yours, Mr. Morgan.
All right. The county budget is available at the county website. Anybody can go and look at it. So if you want to know where it's going, go to the county website. Leads online, the officers have that. They don't pay for it. We just pay $7,200, and the officers have it in their cars, all of them. So that's not an accurate statement. Any city that wants access to our criminal records, our records management system, can have it. All they got to do is pay for it. They have to buy the interfaces and buy that equipment. So it's available to them, but I don't think it's right for the county taxpayers to pay for the city to get that. If they want it, they certainly can have it. The same as far as the 911 the CAD system and interfacing with the RMS system, our records management system. The CAD system is by Interact. Interact is a company. RMS is by Southern Software. There's not an interface to that. So we're talking about more than $84,000 now if you want that to interface. That was decisions made prior to the sheriff getting the 911 center. That's under the county administrator, and they purchased Interact. We had Interact software for a while. There's a records management system, and it failed miserably. That's why we had to go to Southern Software. So those two don't communicate. When it's time to upgrade our 911 software, we hope that we'll at least look at going with Southern Software so they can interface. But if you do it right now, you're talking about some major dollars.
All right, Mr. Whitten, he made some comments that some of your statements were inaccurate. Would you like to respond? 30 seconds.
Yeah, I got that from an investigator. He has to pay for it. They also have to they've got to pay for leads online is exactly what they told me. So maybe it was inaccurate to me. But there needs to be some technological updates. There's no doubt about it. That's all I'll say.
All right. Now for the final question of the evening. It comes from Ms. John L. Raines, representing the Pickens County Taxpayers Association.
Recently, an upstate sheriff recommended more citizens seek a concealed weapon permit. What are your thoughts on this?
John L., do you remember the sheriff's name? What county?
Spartanburg County
Okay.
Sheriff.
All right, the question
I
is...
think we all knew that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question is you, Tim Morgan.
Me? Okay. I'm all for gun ownership. I think if more people had handguns to protect themselves, there would be consequences to actions. I think the bad guys know that. You know, one problem we have in this country is there's no consequences to actions anymore. And I think it's, you know, if you say, I'm going to call the police, that doesn't really scare anybody if they're breaking in your house. But you say, honey, get the gun, they understand that. It's a universal language, and everybody can react to that. I think it makes a person feel more secure when you have the flat tire on the way home and it's dark. At least it's a feeling of comfort to somebody if you have something with you versus being out there stuck on the highway alone and somebody comes up and stops to try to help you. Is their motive really to help you or is it not? So I think having a handgun is a peace of mind when you're caught in a bad situation. But I think all of us need to have a plan of action. What are we going to do if something happens? Mine is, and that for my wife, and that for a lot of people I know is, they know where the handgun is, they know how to use it, and it gives a sense of security that all is well in the event something happens. So I'm in favor.
All right. Mr. Clark, the question's yours.
As I believe the only concealed weapons permit instructor here tonight up on the stage, guess what? I support it. One of the most rewarding things that I've done is have the ladies only free firearm class, concealed weapons class. It was they got their concealed weapons, but it was a great experience for me. You got to see ladies, and I did it for ladies to keep men, because, you know, men and guns. And we wanted to make sure it's a low stress atmosphere. But to see a lady scared to death of a piece of metal and not have confidence in herself change to wanting to shoot more at the end of the class is a tremendous feeling. But bigger than that, on the larger picture, is she's going to be able to protect herself if someone comes in the house. And my greatest example I keep thinking of was the two thugs that tried to break in the lady in Oklahoma, and one of them lay dead over the couch after she got through with them. Why? She was protecting her baby. So if I can ever have anything like that where somebody protected about how I maybe gave them a few tips and taught them, that would be a great thing. So yes, the more people who are protecting themselves after good training, that's the key to it. Make sure it's training that I'm wholly in favor of, and it's just very satisfying to know people are being able to protect themselves as our society deteriorates. And there's only one way to stop it, and that's to be able to protect yourself.
Mr. Whitten, the question is yours.
Absolutely. Nobody in the state of South Carolina has the obligation to needlessly retreat. And you don't need a CWP to protect yourself against an intruder. You got the right to protect your home, your vehicle, your place of business, and you can strap it on your side legally, and you can protect that area. CWPs, I do advocate. I think everybody should get a CWP. You're right, I'm not a CWP instructor. Certainly wouldn't give them that class away for free, but I think it hurts businesses within the county. But everybody has the right to protect themselves. We, you know, my wife's not CWP. She keeps hounding me. Let's go get me CWP. I'm like, let's do it. Let's go. So we still got to sign her up. Just time constraints have stopped me from doing that. But yes, I believe that everybody should have the right to protect themselves where they're, and the right to protect somebody else. Mind you, if somebody else, the guy in Waffle House, we're talking about Spartanburg County. I mean, the guy in Waffle House had a CWP that came in there, did what he needed to do to take care of business, and I applaud him for that.
All right, Mr. Clark, he made a comment about you giving it away for free. You have a comment.
Yes, sir.
30 seconds.
I do a lot of stuff in my community for free. There's some things you do because it's right, and some things you do because you have to make money. I enjoy doing it for free because I got more out of it than they ever paid for it.
All right, that concludes the question portion of this debate. Now we're going to move to the closing remarks. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to do so, and we will begin that with Mr. Tim Morgan.
Well, you've heard a lot of information tonight. You've heard some comments. I encourage you to check it out for the validity of it. I had a buddy one time that he had a saying, you don't know what you don't know. And I had to ponder over that for a couple of minutes to let it sink in. I'd like for you to think about it as well. You don't know what you don't know about running a jail that was at 220% capacity this past Sunday unless you run a jail. You don't know what you don't know about the budget unless you prepared the sheriff's office budget. You don't know what you don't know about a communication center unless you've been there and you've managed it. You don't know what you don't know about managing 140 employees when you've only managed 3. You don't know what you don't know about those things. It's easy to say what you can do, what you will do, what you're going to do, but you don't know the information you don't know. I've done every function at that office over time except fly the helicopter and be an ID officer. And that's because of the chain of custody. I'm not going to get involved in that, but I've been involved in the hiring, the firing, the internal investigations. I've been in a police shooting. I've investigated police shootings. I've investigated others. I've been in a pursuit. I've investigated pursuits. I still have a crooked arm, the one that didn't turn out so well. When it's all said and done, I've been at that office because that's my passion. That's where I want to be. If you wanted to work at Pickens County Sheriff's Office, why didn't you work there? Why didn't you apply there? You know, Anderson has an opening for the chief of police. I like to, you put yourself in that situation. How can I go to Anderson and be a police chief in Anderson and not have and carry with me the passion that I have for what's been my life's work. I just don't think you can do it. I lose my contacts. I lose my informants. I don't know how their system operates. I certainly don't know the people. And how can I go in Anderson and manage all that? And the same situation is here. How can somebody come in from the outside and manage that when they don't know what they don't know? I've been in the office for a long time. I've been the number 2 guy since 1990. I've been bound by the shackles of operating within those parameters of being the number 2 guy. And only you can promote me to the number 1 guy. And I ask you to remove those shackles, remove those boundaries, and let me be the sheriff that's more involved in the quality of life issues in the community and operates a sheriff's office. I think the role of sheriff has certainly changed over the years, and they are more involved in a number of things, but I've been restrained by doing the job that I was given to do, and I think I've done very well. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Mr. Clark, you have 3 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you. Again, thank you for coming out tonight. It's been tremendous, great turnout. But we talk about what we do know. I started off in the jail, started off reserve at the sheriff's office. I started off in the jail. I've worked 3rd shift. Started off, I prepared multi-million-dollar budgets through the city of Liberty for not only police, but fire, through water, through sewer, varied things that run a government. I have to do that because we don't have a city administrator, so I fall into that. I know how to write grants for multi-million dollars. I know how to administer projects. So I do know what I do know. I do know that this retired sheriff's office system is not working for us because we've had crime increases over since 2000. Of violent crime, 62%. Aggravated assault, 68%. Property crime up 77%. Burglary up 80%. I do know that that's not working for us. I do know that a new sheriff needs to be on the ground with his deputies and telling them where to go and what to do and promoting them like they need to be. I do know that the sheriff's office, what great people we have there, and what they can do if we give them the tools, the opportunity, and the motivation, and give them the ability to move forward, and clear out some retirees, and give them the chance to earn their own promotion. That's where we're at in this county. People have been retired over a decade in this area, so they know what they know, and that's the retirement system. So I get very excited about what we can accomplish at the sheriff's office and what we can do. And I do know this, that you go up against an administration that's been there for 44 years, guess what? You're going to run into trouble. So let me give out a few of these here today, because part of this administration sued me for the Supreme Court, and they got denied today. So there'll be nobody knocked off the ballot who's been illegally there. That piece of paper only cost me $5,000 retainer because I wanted to be sheriff in Pickens County because I love my deputies so much that I'm going to stick my neck out for them. I do know back in the 90s when I and a small group of people had to go up in front of county council and request pay raises for the sheriff's deputies when the administration wasn't behind me. I do know that I had to do that twice because the administration wasn't behind me. It's time we had a sheriff who is out here now, just like I am, leading the way with his guys right beside him, not separated by retirement or administrative bureaucracy that we have up there today. Those are the things that I do know. I do know that I talk to deputies on a daily basis, and I do know they won't change. I do know that the Pickens County citizens screamed for change in the June primary. Not only that, they came back on the June runoff and screamed even louder for change at the Pickens County Sheriff's Office, and that's what I'm asking for you tonight, is your vote in November.
I simply want to say thank you. Thank you for PC Votes for allowing us to be here tonight to get our message across. Again, thank you for all the panelists up here to give us the opportunity to answer these questions. And thank you all for coming out and listening to us, what we have to say. I think and believe that the Pickens County Sheriff's Office needs to be the premier agency in this county, to where all other agencies turn to for resources, not just law enforcement, but EMS, fire service, highway patrol, and rescue squad. I think they need to turn to the Sheriff's Office for resources. And we need somebody up there that can lead these deputies out there, lead them from the front. You know, the difference in a supervisor and a leader is a supervisor is going to sit behind a desk, and they're going to leave their sleeves rolled down. They're going to tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. A leader is going to roll the sleeves up, and he's going to get out with you and inspire you, influence, and motivate you while he's out there working with you. That's the difference in a leader and a supervisor. Again, thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate it. I'd like to ask for your vote on November 6th. Thank you all very much.
All right, I think the candidates and the panelists did a great job. Let's give them another round of applause. That concludes the debate portion of this event. We're going to have a intermission period for about 5 to 10 minutes. The candidates can mingle with the crowd. After that, then we're going to have an interview session that volunteers from the audience will get the opportunity to ask the candidates questions. So if you'd like to stay for that, you're welcome to. If you need to go, you can. But if you go, leave a donation. All right, intermission time begins now.
I guess we can go.
Everyone will start going to your seats again, please. Everyone return to your seats. Have a seat, please. Everyone return to your seats, please.
Something slightly different.
Okay.
Somebody asking me a question from the audience. The person sticking out. Everybody else is good.
So just ask one question per candidate.
As I said, we'll just do one. You give me a.
Okay, perfect.
All right. The first candidate that's up is Stan Whitten. Right here. All right, we didn't get enough volunteers to fill all the mics up. So we're going to take one question from a person in the audience. He'll bring the microphone to you. Anyone?
During the discussion, I got the impression there were 147 employees in the sheriff's office, but there were only 8 or 9 cars out on each shift in contact with the public. And that's like, I was wondering why the number of officers actually in contact with the public was such a small percentage of the total number of employees.
It's a great question. I asked that same question. That's why I want to realign personnel, take positions, realign positions from captain's positions to lieutenant's positions. Instead of having 9 deputies on the road, increase that dramatically in smaller patrol areas. Again, we talk about the budget. We talk about where the budget is in terms of personnel. You save so much money. Well, you save so much money when you can realign positions, not do away with personnel, but realign positions to better and effectively serve the people in this county. that's what it's about, is serving the people in this county.
All right, do we have another question? Thought I saw another hand. One over here. Just a moment. Let him bring the mic so we can get it on recording.
Yes, they are after I am. Is that what you're going to ask?
It's going on YouTube. We got to get on the mic.
Oh, okay. I was asking, is any other Tim or Rick going to answer the questions also?
Nope, I'm the only one.
Everybody gets an opportunity, 5 minutes
You're
of questions.
out of order. Now, come on now.
Would Mr. Morgan be willing to answer the question from the audience?
Everybody's going to get a chance to go up there just like this.
Sure.
I'd like to hold mine for Mr. Morgan.
All right. He has 5 minutes. Someone else. There's one.
Okay, I want to ask about the 10th Amendment again. I know that was brought up earlier, but I'd just like to get a little bit more clarification on what the 10th Amendment is and how it affects us. My interpretation is that that's the state sovereignty, and that protects our rights as citizens. If something were to, I feel like our sheriff is going to be our last line of defense in case of a government intrusion or anything like that. So I want to know, how do you feel about states' rights and our sovereignty as citizens?
Sure, I'm a South Carolinian first, and I'm an American second. And that's exactly, you're exactly right. It's states' right. It's liberty. In the sheriff's office, and I know they had questions at debate about martial law, and what are you going to do if the government comes in and tries to implement martial law in Pickens County. And it's only applicable to the United States Army. I don't know how you fight them off if they're going to come into your county. Now, I will stand there toe-to-toe and do my best to do that. There's a term, it's a Latin term, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but it's called posse comitatus. And that means that the sheriff can deputize anybody in this county at any time under emergency circumstances. And if that's what the people in this county want, no federal troops stepping in this county, guess what? Y'all going to be standing right here beside me.
All right. How much time do we have left? 1 minute. Someone else have a question right quick. There's one right there.
Lucky enough to have me on the other side of the room.
I know where both Tim Morgan and Rick Clark stand on this subject, but if you were elected as sheriff, what would be your part in the budgeting for the Pickens County Youth Court?
Youth court. Yeah, I'm all for youth court. It serves a great purpose for our youth. Again, I talked about bringing back police camp back up at Rocky Bottom for at-risk kids, something like that. But youth court's a phenomenal thing. It does wonders for our youth, and I'm all for it.
All right. That concludes. We're out of time? We're out of time.
Thank y'all very much.
20 seconds? Okay, go quick.
Make it quick.
Quick.
Stan, can you tell us a little bit about your supervisory experience, please?
Yes, at Greenville County Sheriff's Office, I'm on a platoon where I lead 20 people on my platoon. I have general supervision over 120 people in uniform patrol at the Greenville County Sheriff's Office.
All right. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Morgan. Anyone have a question for Mr. Morgan? All right. Right there.
Mr. Morgan, I understand you have been a assistant sheriff for all these years, and I understand, if I'm not wrong, that you are fully retired. Is that correct or not correct?
I'm not fully retired. I'm drawing my retirement. In 1968, South Carolina legislature passed a retirement bill. In that, you had to, there's a provision in law that says if you serve 30 years, you can start drawing your retirement. We didn't hear about it until the late 90s. You had to work 30 years, 1968, 1998. The first person in Pickens County to do it that I'm aware of was the clerk to county council. The law's changed a little bit since then. They just modified the law in July, but they didn't eliminate it. It's the same thing as you putting your money in an IRA, and IRS regulations say that when you reach 59 and a half, you can get your money. Now, what you're doing, if you make that option, we hire people that are 22 years old, 23 years old. They get a job, they get married, they have children, and lo and behold, 25 years service when you can retire now. Guess what? Your first child's beginning to go to college, already in college, and you have an option to get your money, which is part of the compensation package for every law enforcement officer in South Carolina. You can take your money to help alleviate the burden of sending your kids to college if you choose to do so. Typically, for the employee, he's got one in college when he reaches that magic mark and one coming on. I don't think it's right to restrict our people that opportunity. You know, law enforcement officers are paid poorly anyway. And you're gambling. What you're doing, you're gambling that you're going to die before you reach that magic point between 25 years of service. If you stay, it increases 2% a year for every year that you stay, plus a percentage of your pay raises. So my brother, for example, that works someplace else, has opted not to draw his because he says, I can make more money from the retirement system if I don't start drawing it now, because he don't have any kids. So there's a magic point out there someplace in the future that they draw more money from the retirement system, but it's a matter of drawing your money that you were promised when you started working. It's that way all across South Carolina, and I don't care who the sheriff is. That's the law of the land. It's no different than your money in your IRA that you can draw out at 59 and a half.
If you're hired or elected as sheriff and want to help Pickens County out so well, would you be willing to give up your sheriff's department salary, put it back into Pickens County, and live off your retirement?
No, sir. Anybody that chooses to exercise that option, it's different from the Terry program. The Terry program, the employee decides. And this program, if you want to exercise that option, you turn in your resignation, and within 5 working days, the sheriff will call you and tell you whether you can come back to work or not. Would you like to try that on your job? Turn your resignation in, don't know whether you can come back? If you do come back, you're evaluated every 6 months and your job's on the line. I think it's a very good program. Not everybody's been able to do it, and I certainly wouldn't let everybody do it. But the thing about it is people say it log jams the system, and that's not accurate, because I don't know of anybody that would have retired and left the office anyway. I would still be there. What it allows you to do is pay some things off earlier, pay your kids' college education off earlier, so you can retire earlier. So there's a lot of election year rhetoric and misinformation. I encourage you to look into it and check it out, because it's all that you're hearing, I'm sure, is absolutely not 100% accurate.
All right, another question. One in the back.
Hi, Tim. Do you consider yourself a liberal, moderate, or conservative, and why?
I'm a conservative. I think I'm conservative with money. I'm conservative with my views and my interaction with people and my interpretation of the Constitution. I think in a number of arenas, I'm conservative. I think I saw the 30-second flag.
10 seconds. Very quick.
Is an employee only one that applies to the retirement you was talking about, or is the elected official as sheriff? He is not an employee, he's an elected official. Can he do the retirement plan? And does our sheriff that we've got now not under retirement plan? Is he not retired?
He is.
Is that legal for the sheriff, an appointed, not appointed, but an elected official to do that?
There's a separate statute
Right,
related
he
to
is, I
elected
grant
officials.
that. Can the sheriff, an elected official, get to retirement?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. That's all. Your time's up. Rick Clark. Who has a question? Right there.
Rick is a retired law enforcement officer myself that worked here in Pickens County. It's been a few years, but at that time there was not much cooperation between the sheriff's office and the other law enforcement agencies in the county. Part one of my question is, what would you do to address that? It may not be as bad now as it was then. And number two, are you going to be a sheriff that runs this job from behind the desk up there in the office? Or are you going to be on the road with your deputies? And part three of this question, if that's allowed, I'm high on the sheriff's office working with our churches for security, because we all know what's going on in churches across this country. It's got to the point to where sometimes that can be a very dangerous place.
Yep. Do I have to remember all three of them? That may be the problem. Number one, talking about cooperation, and you heard me say that over and over ad nauseum tonight, is cooperation. And part of that is going back to our intelligence-led policing system. The simple pieces of paper I showed up to you tonight came from the Anderson County Sheriff's Office, came from Katie there. And let me give you an example of what cooperation works. And everybody thinks Tri-County Tech, nothing happens, but we're a full police force now. We're putting people in jail who all of a sudden figure out things do happen and we go to jail for it. And what we did through intelligence-led policing last summer, we had a car break-in on campus, one at Dollar General just out on the Mechanic Street. We took that case over and working with the Anderson County Sheriff's Office. In fact, the deputies here who filed it, and that's how great we work together. Is that so? We took it over and we got with Katie, and she had through intelligence-led policing, she had a chart on her wall that was over 3 feet wide of our participators in this thing. So we started joining the detectives there. We started joining with Belton. We even took a case over in Belton for lack of cooperation there, and we took that over. We went to Hart County, Georgia through intelligence-led policing because we were chasing the same suspects. That's cooperation that I'm after. Who would think that Tri-County Tech Police Department, Public Safety, would be leading an investigation in Anderson County as big and as good as those guys are? But we weren't leading it, we were working together. And we put this guy in jail for 74 warrants on car break-ins and thefts. And his girlfriend, we had to go down to Hart County and pick her up. Third was churches. Yes, it's the same thing. We're going to have ladies' firearm classes, not to get their CWP, but to protect themselves in their home and where they can legally carry a gun. Church security is good. I, in fact, in his church, taught them how to do it. It's the same as active shooter instructor, certified through the alert system, the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. And we're also going to expand not just as church security, but we got to do corporate security now. Places that are high risk or have people with volatile and customers or things like that. I also teach Cannon Hospital on how to respond to active shooters for their nurses. That should be the sheriff's office out there leading these things. And talking about being out with my men, I give my phone number, direct phone number into my officers is 646-1800. Ask them where I'm at with them. Ask them if we're not out directing traffic in the morning with them. Wrote a ticket today for handicap. The things, I'm beside my officers. I cannot sit in an office long enough and not get out into, my wife says, wiggle. I have to be moving and wiggling. So I'm going to be out with my deputies because I can't stay in an office that long. I'll have to do my administrative work. But also, there's no greater feeling than when I was talking about one of my officers. I took her with her probable cause statement to get her first warrants on a couple of high misdemeanors that somebody charged to us or had committed a crime on campus. I took her to get her first warrants. We went to serve those first warrants for her in a housing development, Fairview Gardens, which the next week there was a murder there. And we almost had an assault when we were there. That's what fulfills me as a law enforcement officer, putting people in jail, saving communities, and helping other officers build and grow as officers and human beings.
Another question? Right there.
Oh, Rick, as a fellow deputy for a local agency, my question is, at times, I have been out on calls that might be borderline between two agencies, and it'll be found out it's in Pickens County's jurisdiction. At times, I have to wait an hour, hour and a half, 30 minutes, whatsoever. How would you improve the response time for the deputies, for the community? Because myself as a deputy, that's a concern for me for this county.
Very quickly. We've got to look at every position in the sheriff's office and see if we need it. Do we need certain positions in there, and can we put that on the road? Can we take a position now and move it and put it on the road? A great person in his position, but we have to look at our staff attorney. To me, I need deputies on the road more than I need a staff attorney. I need a prosecutor who has the legal authority to prosecute in my office more than I need a staff attorney. Every single position we've got to look at, and the first concern is the deputies on the road to improve response time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the debate. We appreciate you for coming. All right, I want to mention the YouTube upload will take place tonight. So if you want to go to it tonight, you can. All right, we appreciate everyone who played a part in any way. Keep current, up to date, and we will see you at the polls in November.